Gopadhari Valabhagiri Bharadha Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadhari Giri Bharadha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunati Ravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Hasto Tarasati Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki Sri Purushottam Chetra ki Sri Ganga Maya ki Jai Sri Jamuna Maya ki Jai Bhakti Devi ki Jai Tulsi Devi Maharani ki Jai Harinam Sankirtana ki Jai Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 7, The Science of God. Chapter 13, The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Text number 31. Oof, 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 oof. Let's just see if I can see this. If I can't, somebody else might have to lead the chanting. Is that okay? Yeah. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, somebody is going to. It's too much of a, too hard. I can't even read it properly, even when I can see it. Can you lead the chanting, Ananda Ballabha?
Yep.
So. Abhimuktasya kasyate Ajatimakati dukkhair Abhimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya kruchanate Athaikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmikadhibhir dukkhair Avimuktasya kahijit Matyasya kruchanate Athaikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmikadhibhir dukkhair Avimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya krichopananaya Ataikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmikadhibhir dukkhair Avimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya krichropanatair Ataikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmikadhibhir Avimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya krichropanatair Ataikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmikadhibhir dukkhair Avimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya krichropanatair Ataikamai kriyeta kim Avimuktasya kahijit Madhyasya krichropanatair Ataikamai kriyeta kim Adhyatmika Adibi Adhyatmik, Adidavik and Adibautik Dukkhae by the threefold miseries of material life. Avimuktasya, of one who is not freed from such material conditions, or one who is subjected to birth, death, old age and disease. Kahichit, sometimes. Madhyasya, of the living entity, subjected to death. Krishna upanitai, things obtained because of severe miseries. Atai, even if some benefit is derived. Kamai, which can fulfill one's material desires. Creator. What do they do? Kim. And what is the value of such happiness? Materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of miserable conditions: adhyatmika, adhidaivika and adhibhautika. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is still subjected to birth, death, old age, disease and the reactions of his fruitive activities. Purport. According to the materialistic way of life, if a poor man, after labouring very, very hard, gets a material profit at the end of his life, he is considered a success. Even though he again dies while suffering the threefold miseries, adhyatmika, adhidaivika and adhibhautika. No one can escape the threefold miseries of materialistic life, namely miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to the difficulties imposed by society, community, nation and other living entities, and miseries inflicted upon us by natural disturbances from earthquakes, famines, droughts, floods, epidemics and so on. If one works very hard, suffering the threefold miseries, and then is successful in getting some small benefit, what is the value of this benefit? Besides that, even if a kami is successful in accumulating some material wealth, he still cannot enjoy it, for he must die in bereavement. I have even seen a dying man begging a medical attendant to increase his life by 4 years so that he could complete his material plans. Of course, the medical man was unsuccessful in expanding the life of the man, who therefore died in great bereavement. Everyone must die in this way, and after one's mental condition is taken into account by the laws of material nature, he is given another chance to fulfill his desires in a different body. Material plans for material happiness have no value, but under the spell of the illusory energy, we consider them extremely valuable. There were many politicians, social reformers and philosophers who died very miserably without deriving any practical value from their material plans. Therefore, a sane and sensible man never desires to work hard under the conditions of threefold miseries only to die in disappointment. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaye Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishnam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahiyam Darati Sva Padantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. What a picture. What a picture. Right? What do we start with? Adhyatmika klesha. Right? The sufferings that come from the body and the mind. And which get worse as you get older. We place so much faith in and hope for this body, right? But ultimately it disappoints us. So adhyatmika, adhibhautika, the miseries that are inflicted upon us by other living entities. When I go and sit in my backyard, I want to relax. In the evening, I can only do it for about 2 minutes. Somehow the mosquitoes know that you're sitting in the backyard. And out they come. And that's just the mosquitoes. That's just the little living entities. And it's interesting, isn't it? Prabhupada says, what did Prabhupada say here? The difficulties imposed by society, community, nation, and other living entities. Right? All the expectations, all of the conflict. In a civilized society, we have rules and regulations, right? So that we can all live harmoniously. Because when we're young, one of my friends the other day was telling me how her son has just was about to turn 16. So he's telling his mum, now I'm 16, I can do what I like. Right? I said to her, tell him, try driving on the right-hand side of the road and see how you go. Right? Go into the women's toilet instead of the men's toilet. See how you go. Right? And so, we see all of these societal standards, norms as restrictions. Why do I have to do all of these things? Right? Of course, that's a measure of a civilized society, is that there are norms and standards that we need to abide by. And so, but again, there are constraints. There are requirements. You have to pay your taxes, right? But that would be seen as a burden by some. Well, of course, it is a burden. How many of you here have got a job? Raise your hands. Only one person. Oh, no, three, 4. Yeah. And you get paid for the work that you do, right? That's nice, isn't it? But it's not nice when you look at what they give you and you see how much tax they took out, right? Well, so misery is inflicted by, what does Prabhupada say here? The mind and the body, right? Then the miseries pertaining to the difficulties imposed by society, community, nation, and other living entities. Competition amongst the different living entities creates anxiety, pain, suffering, adhibhautik. And then the last one, miseries inflicted upon us by natural disturbances, earthquakes. We don't get earthquakes very often, right? In Melbourne. I remember we were in Vrindavan one, I guess it must have been in October, must have been Kartik time. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up and my bed was shaking, was rocking from side to side. Right? And I thought, what's the Chincharupa rocking my bed for? I thought she was pushing my bed. And then I realised, hang on a second, it's the building is shaking. Woo. Hare Krishna. And it was an earthquake, you may remember, in the Punjab, and people were killed. Very dangerous. So earthquakes. What else have we got here? Famines. You know, we had an 8-year drought. Remember that? Not so recent, not so long ago. Of course, this year it's been very wet. Right? You talk to the farmers, they'll complain about, oh, we haven't had enough rain. Right? So have a guess what they're complaining about now? Too much rain. Right? So famines, droughts, floods. Right? So we've been in a very wet season. So this year there's piles of hay in the paddocks, right? And we don't have to, we've got so much grass in the fields. Usually Manigriva's complaining about the kangaroos eating all of the grass, right? But now there's grass aplenty, right? So we don't have to buy hay. So all the farmers that have harvested their hay to sell, the hay's just sitting in the paddocks because nobody's buying hay, right? But just wait a few years and it'll be completely swapped around, and it'll be a drought, and there won't be enough grass. They'll be able to sell their hay then. Epidemics. Well, we all know about, you know, previously, a few years ago, we would have read, oh, epidemic, what's that? Right? But now we know all about epidemics. Right? I was looking on the door knob in my bedroom. There's all these masks hanging. I think, oh, that's cute. There's a relic from a few years ago, right? Remember when we all had to wear a mask? Right? So previously, where we read these purports and we heard Prabhupada talking about epidemics, we'd be thinking, oh, what's that? Epidemic. In fact, this is quite common for us. We read and of course, you know, we've got adhyatmic, adhibautic, adhidaivika sufferings, right? Which we kind of tolerate. Most often we're thinking, oh, what am I going to do today? What's positive? Do we usually, well, I guess if we're in a depressed state of mind, we might wake up and we're thinking, oh no, adhyatmic, adhibautic, adhidaivika klesha, all the miseries of material existence. What is there to look forward to in life? Huh? Well, most of the time we wake up and we think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, if I'm successful here, then I'll be successful there and I'll achieve my desires. So we wake up with enthusiasm and optimism. How many people wake up with that kind of attitude, optimism and enthusiasm for life? Raise your hands. Let's just do a poll. Got one person. How many wake up? No, adhyatmika, adhidaivika, adhibautika klesha, I'm going to suffer. Raise your hands if you think about that. Nobody. Well, you're all ambivalent, right? Sama. It's a Brahminical qualification is to be sama, equipoised. Right? I know I often wake up and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Very enthusiastic about life, but then have to suffer. At the moment, I'm suffering adhyatmika. I can't read. It's interesting, I can read. The other day I couldn't read. It was so difficult for me to read this text. And it's still difficult for me to read the italics. The verse. I can read almost everything else. So, eyes not working as well as they used to when I was 10 or 12 or even 40. I could see very well. So, and then the interesting thing is, the ignominy of it all is that you suffer all of these things, adhyatmika, adhibautika, adhidaivika, klesha, and then what comes after that in this verse? What's next? What's the word? Look, have a look at the verse. What's the word? I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. It's on the third line. What's that word? Who can read it? Hands up if you can read the first word of the third line. Yeah. And what does it say? Yes, and what does that mean? Death. You've got to suffer all this harassment by adhyatmika, adhibautika and adhidaivika. And then what happens? What have you got to look forward to? You got to die. Right? Hard to be enthusiastic about life, really, when you think about it. I remember when I was about 16, I went to my mum and I said, Mum, I'd been thinking deeply about life. And I said, I might as well kill myself now. The only thing that I've got to look forward to is death. My mum was horrified. Oh no! She was horrified. And I was thinking, I was actually at that time in my life, I was reading books on Buddhism and Hinduism and getting acquainted with reincarnation and the cycle of birth and death. These things were I was becoming aware of these things. And of course, in ordinary society, these things are not discussed, right? They're not contemplated, which is very interesting with the Bhagavat philosophy. The facts of life and the challenges of material existence are grappled with very graphically, right? And in isolation, this verse would be considered to be, a somewhat pessimistic outlook, right, when you think about it, right? Life is suffering. And that's basically what it's saying. And why? Why? Why is life suffering? This is a common theme in the Bhagavatam and in the Vaishnava worldview, right? And what is it due to? What is the problem here? Prabhupada mentions this in the purport. 4 things. What are they? Anybody got an idea of what they might be? Raise your hands if you've got an idea what the 4 causes of this suffering are. Gopa? Yeah, Jamma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us all this information. Birth, death, old age and disease. Why do we celebrate birthdays? Right? We celebrate birthdays with a great amount of joy and enthusiasm, right? Oh, you took birth. What a wonderful fellow you are. But look, if we read this verse in the Bhagavatam, it's like, you're born, well, wacko. Right? Wacko the diddly-o, that's what my father would say. Wacko the diddly-o. Which kind of means, so what? Right? So what? You're now going to suffer. But the irony of it all is that the way the material world is created, even though there's so much suffering, we have so much optimism in to be successful. And so this verse points out that we face birth, death, old age and disease, and as a consequence, the miseries that are inflicted upon us by the material energy, and we consider ourselves a success if at the end of working for 40 years we've got some superannuation. Right? Oh, I've got some superannuation. Oh, you're secure. Right? Devotees sometimes would criticise me in the Chinchari, but you've got no plans. Where's your security? Right? You don't have any security. And we're thinking, hang on a second, where's the security in your superannuation? Realistically, right? And here Prabhupada makes the point very strongly. You might get some money, this verse makes the point. You work hard, you suffer all of this, all these trials and tribulations and the embarrassment that comes from it, quite frankly, right? And then at the end of that you get some possessions, some money, or, sometimes you, in the 80s, you used to see these bumper stickers on the back of a car, right? And it would say, the one who dies with the most toys wins. Right? So, we think, oh, we've accumulated so much, therefore I'm successful. But then you've worked hard, your body's failing, and before you know it, you can't enjoy anything, you're taken away. It's either it's taken away from you by the time factor, or the time factor takes you away from everything. And then again into birth, death, old age and disease. So, a rather pessimistic outlook on life, don't you think? But it's the reality. And the final instruction and of course Prabhupada makes a story that Prabhupada told more than once about an acquaintance, a gentleman that he knew who was dying, and he was begging his doctor, please just give me 4 more years to live. Right? And of course, the time factor, fate, karma, gone. Right? So, this verse talks about bereavement. What's the word? Yeah. What is the value of this happiness of having some material some material gain or profit, right? What's the value of it when you're taken away from it and there's the pain of separation from the things that we hope to enjoy? This is a very tough message, isn't it? What do you think, Brajraj? And it's true. It's true. We have to face the fact, and it can be very painful, face the fact that we're going to be taken away from those who we love and have deep affection for. Very challenging, actually. Very challenging to realise that I'm going to be taken away from Radha Ballabha and the devotees and the prasadam and my friends. Even for a devotee, these are challenges that we have to face. And so it's interesting, in the Bhagavad Gita, and at the end of this purport, Prabhupada says, more or less paraphrasing, was it Adyantavanta Kunteya, and Krishna mentioned this verse the other day also. These pleasures have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Adyantavanta. Adi has a beginning, not mentioned, a middle, but it sustains for some time, but then anta, gone. So really the Bhagavatam is warning us time and time again about the temporality of material existence, right? And warning us not to put our hopes and faith into things that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Na teshu, in these things, ramate buddha. The wise, or the discriminating, right? Those who are intelligent, buddha, don't seek pleasure in those things. Na teshu ramate. Ramate means to have pleasure, right? Rama means the giver of pleasure. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Na teshu ramate buddha. But, as Urmila was mentioning the other day, we're pleasure seekers. Right? Anandamayo bhyasat. Prabhupada quotes this. We are pleasure seekers. It's natural for us to want to enjoy. Right? Hands up. Who likes to suffer? Who likes adhyatmik, adhibautik, and adhidaivic klesh? Please raise your hands. How many? Who amongst us here is looking forward to death? Please raise your hands. Yeah. Nobody really. But still we want to enjoy. Right? That's why we get up with enthusiasm in the morning. Yes, okay, let's go. But where do we get our enjoyment? We're looking for pleasure which is permanent, not temporary. This is really the Bhagavat message, is don't focus on the material, and we do, because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to accept birth, death, old age and disease as normal. And we kind of tolerate it and ignore it sometimes also. We look forward to enjoyment, to enjoy. And for the devotees, there are opportunities for enjoyment. I want you to reflect for a moment on what you enjoy in life. Think about it for a moment. What do you enjoy in life? What's your top enjoyment? Got it? Who'd like to share what their top enjoyment in life is? What was that? Kirtan. Yeah. Sankirtan. Prasadam. He's one of our new Albert Park College students, looking very dapper in his blazer. 14 of the kids going to high school this year. 14, I think it is, something like that. And have a guess what? They're all enjoying school like anything. At least this is only the first week. The first week of high school is exciting until you discover it's the same as primary school, boring. Kirtan. Yeah, what else? Prasadam. Kirtan. What else? What makes you come to the temple every day? Huh? Devotee association. Yes. Yeah. What's that? Yes. Radha Ballabha, Gaunitai, Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. What else? Festivals. Yeah, well, there's more kirtan, more deity worship. Abhishek. Isn't it interesting how I was talking to Pablo the other day, and we were looking at our annual report, looking at the things, and in the deity report it mentioned how many abhisheks we'd done. He said, "What's that abhishek?" He said, I had a friend called Abhishek. Yeah? And then I explained to him what Abhishek is, right? And how that's, how we, according to Narada Muni, we follow the process of worshipping the deity. And in Judaic Christian, in the Judaic Christian tradition, what we're doing in worshipping the deity is considered, it's one of the 10 commandments actually, that thou shalt not do. Right? So it can be very challenging for people who are brought up in that tradition to see what they call idolatry. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like hugely challenging. How can you worship an idol? But of course, the whole, the argument is, God is unlimited. How can you limit him with a form? Right? And we say, if God is unlimited, how come you say he can't have a form? You're limiting him. If God is unlimited, and of course this is a great challenge for anybody really, is to understand that God has form and no form at the same time. Right, that's pretty, and as I mentioned this the other day, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary to the Brahma Samhita says that Krishna has a self-contradictory form, right? It's contradictory. How can you be a person and not a person at the same time? How do you do that? Right? How do you do it? And of course, Prabhupada quotes them from the Puranas in that there's the verse, and I've forgotten the verse. And there's the example of the fire. The fire is in the fireplace, right? And so that's the form of fire. But the fire is also manifest all throughout the room in terms of its energy, heat and light, right? So we can say the fire is in the room or the fire is in the fireplace. It means the same. It's the same. It's the same in terms of the heat and light is the expansion of the fire that's in the fireplace. So just as a fire can be present in the fireplace, but also all throughout the room, so similarly Krishna, in his personal form, is situated in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha, but at the same time he's manifest everywhere throughout the creation in the expansion of his energies. Right, now this is a fairly simple concept for most of us. We don't have any problem with that. That's why we can come into the temple and we can worship the personal form, because we know if God is unlimited, all-powerful and all-pervading, he can manifest in whatever way he likes. Right? And certainly if we follow the prescription that's been given to us by great personalities like Narada Muni, really is a source. It's interesting, isn't it, that I've discussed this before, but Narada Muni is the personification of Sankirtan, right? Narada Muni is the personification of Sankirtan. Narada Muni Bhajai Bina Radhika Ramana Namhe, right? Narada Muni is travelling all over, chanting Hare Krishna effectively, right? But he's also the author of the Pancharatra, in other words, the rules and regulations of deity worship, which is very interesting because Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, and the basis for our activities are Sankirtan, right? It's the Yuga Dharma. Yet, and even though Prabhupada says, preaching and book distribution is more important than temple worship, yet Prabhupada established so many temples with deities. Even when it wasn't easy wasn't easy in the early days of this temple to maintain the deity worship of Radha Vallabha, Gaurnitai, Jagannath, Balarama, Subhadra. It was a major effort to do that for the devotees. Even today, there's something like 120 devotees, is it, that are engaged in deity worship. Especially on a festival. On a festival day, there's 25, 30 devotees that do all of the decorations. Right? In fact, you know, it's busier than Burke Street on Snan Yatra. Did you notice on Snan Yatra there were 16 brahmanas in the deity room? Couldn't even see the deities. Did you notice that? What do we get out of here? What do you got? So, how many people does it require to actually pay for Lord Jagannath? Maybe 4 or 5. Huh? But and this is challenging. This is challenging for those who don't appreciate and understand how Krishna can be manifest in his deity form and accept the love and affection of his devotees. Right? This can be hugely challenging for those who don't understand the process. So these are things that we look forward to, or that we can meditate on, and which give us great satisfaction. What else? What else do we look forward to?
Service.
What was that?
Service.
Service. To who? Yeah, more deity worship. Even prasadam prasadam is the extension of what? Deity worship. Huh? That's part of deity worship. It's the leftover, it's the prasad. Okay, what else? There's something else. Book distribution. Looks forward to book distribution. Okay, yeah, why not? Yeah. What's that? That's Sankirtan. That's part of Shravanam Kirtanam, book distribution. And ultimately Smaranam, remembering Krishna. Yeah. So, my friend that I was talking, I asked her, what makes you come to the temple? She said, the Bhagavatam class. I love to come for the Bhagavatam class, although a little bit late this morning. So this is what we look forward to for our source of pleasure, right? Kirtan, the association of the devotee, and of course this is the Panchanga Bhakti mentioned by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Right? Sadhu Sangha, Sankirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Murti Seva, and Mathura, living in a sacred place. This is why many of the devotees, even though they own a house in Tarneet or Truganina, they rent a house, they rent that out, then they rent a house in Albert Park. Right? You know what my joke is? My joke is the temple is feeding them, right? And that's helping to pay off their mortgage. Right? And of course, they give donations to the temple as well, because it's a self-supporting economy. But why? Why? Albert Park is one of the most expensive places in Melbourne to live, and especially now. But rents are just going sky high. But why? Why live in Albert Park, do you think? Why do we live in Albert Park, Sibya?
Because the temple is in
Yeah, the temple's in Albert Park. If the temple was in Truganina, we'd be living there. Yeah. So a devotee is very happy and feels secure in that environment where there's the association of the devotees, where there's kirtan, where there's Bhagavat Katha, where there's service, effectively, right? If we don't have service, we feel lost. In fact, that's a characteristic of a Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi is that they look forward to doing some service. And if they haven't been given some service, they'll find something to do, right? And be happy to do it. Like a Chincharupa likes to sweep the courtyard. Have you noticed? She'll pick up the broom and sweep the courtyard. And she was telling me yesterday, she has liked to clean her house since she was 10 years old. Right? She liked cleaning. And it's how she... Chincharupa got the nickname from her family, Queenie. Right? Queenie. Because she liked to tell everybody what to do. She still does. I don't know if you noticed. Right? But when she cleans the kitchen floor, I'm not allowed to go and walk on it. Get out of it. You know, if the kitchen floor's been cleaned, out. This is what she used to do at home when she was 10 years old. She said, that's how I got the name Queenie. So devotees like to do service and they like to clean. It's a good example. If there's nothing to do, let's keep it clean. Even the queens of Dwarka are cleaning, and it's not dirty, right? It's not dirty. So a devotee likes to even, and we see that, I've mentioned this before many times also. Ambarish Maharaj, right? Karo Hare Mandira Marjanadishu, right? He's the king he's the emperor of the universe, but what does he do? Karo Hari Mandir, right? He goes to the temple. And then what does he do? Marjana. And in fact, that's actually our cleaning is actually our occupation, when you think about it, right? When we're chanting Hare Krishna, what are we doing? Cleaning the heart, yes. So clean, and Prabhupada mentions this, cleaning is external, taking bath, and internal, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing the Bhagavatam. This is why the Bhagavatam is so important. And the Bhagavatam is here kind of knocking material life, right? Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Adi Atmika Klesha. Suffering. Right? Suffering, okay, get some possessions, but then what happens? You're taken away from them. And if we're attached to those things, you'll experience bereavement at the time of death. But a transcendentalist, a bhakti yogi doesn't put faith in those material things, knowing that they're temporary, they get taken away. And they're the cause of pain and suffering. We think we'll enjoy, yes, if I get some money, if I have some property, if I get a superannuation, whatever. Right? But a devotee doesn't place faith in those things. Their pleasure is in getting a higher taste. Param drištva. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina. What's the next line? Param drishtva nivartate. Yeah. We're embodied, and so naturally we're going to be attached to material things. That's a given, right? But what the Bhagavatam is warning us is detach. And the way we're able to detach is by getting a higher taste from chanting Hare Krishna, from hearing the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the devotees and to the deities especially. And we see that. That's why the devotees come to congregate in Albert Park and Middle Park. And why, the association of the devotees is so attractive and potent, and is because there is a taste in those activities, and that's the permanent happiness and satisfaction that exists in the soul when we're like fish out of water. Prabhupada gives the example, fish out of water, trying to enjoy the material world. But when we're engaged in acts of bhakti or devotion, then we're happy as a fish in water. But we just feel comfortable. And in the right setting. We still may have attraction for material things, but that's why we chant Hare Krishna, we hear the Bhagavatam, and we cultivate a knowledge of things, of the relationships of things, the material to the spiritual. And we get our satisfaction from the engagement in the spiritual, not from the engagement in the material. Because that engagement in the spiritual act uncovers our Sat-Chit Ananda form. Urmila was making this point the other day, right? When we hear the Bhagavatam, when we chant Hare Krishna, when we engage in service, that the purification of those activities and just the engagement in those activities puts us into our original spiritual identity. And we just feel comfortable with that. We don't want to do anything else. In fact, if that's taken away from us, we feel lost. Does that make sense? Huh? Nanda Ballabha, why do you keep coming back to the temple? Huh?
Always fresh.
Always fresh. Nava Yovanam Cha. Despite the fact we've now all got grey hairs, right? There's just that feeling of freshness that you get. And people say that, like consistently, almost every day, we get five-star reviews on, I've mentioned this before, I mentioned it many times, on Google. And people just say, fantastic atmosphere, beautiful place, right? Peaceful, right? What is it? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Na sochati na kankshati. So when we're engaged in those activities of Brahman or Brahma Bhuta action, right? Then happy, and not distracted by material things. In fact, the material things are disturbance. So that's why Krishna says, Na teshu ramate buddha. And why Prabhupada says here at the end of the purport. Right? Therefore, a sane and sensible man, This is at the end of the purport. Never desire to work hard under the conditions of threefold miseries, only to die in disappointment. Right? Only to die in disappointment. So, devotees not disappointed by their activities because they're getting that, what is it? Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipatam purnamritasvardhanam. This is the nectar for which we're always anxious, we're always happy. Why we always keep coming back to the temple, because this is where we get our pleasure. This is where we enjoy. And that satisfies that desire to enjoy, which is natural to us. It's in Krishna, what is it? Rasavai Saha, Urmila mentioned the other day. Krishna is the source of all enjoyment and pleasure. Then when we come and associate with Krishna, we enjoy. And so we're happy. We can't go to the temple, we become morose and dejected, back in material life. But when we're in the association of the devotees and engaged in devotional service, then we're dancing, jubilant. Prabhupada says jubilant. Okay, any comments or questions? I already know you've got a question, Sibya.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, you mentioned that because of our ignorance, we sometimes...
Mentioned that?
That we hear in lectures that through our, because of our ignorance, we
So you have to go slower. Start again.
We hear
I
in
mentioned that...
In lectures, we hear that because of ignorance, we lack knowledge in bhakti.
What was the first bit?
We hear in lectures that we lack knowledge because of...
We lack knowledge.
We go through suffering because of our ignorance, and we lack knowledge because of that.
Yeah.
So I like to ask that even when we're devotees, we have the knowledge. Do we still have to go through these suffering like Adhyatmika, Adhidevika, Adhibhautika? We still go through those sufferings.
Do we still have to?
We still go through those
sufferings. We still do, yes, that's right.
So, how do we elevate from those sufferings? Is there a way to, elevate from those sufferings?
Would anybody like to answer that question for Sibya? Did everybody understand the question? Okay, she said how to elevate, right?
How do we
go above the sufferings.
Yeah, is there a way to elevate?
Right? How do we elevate ourselves above the Adhyatmika, Adhidevika, Adhibhautika sufferings? Is there a way? Victor? What do you think? Huh? Surrender to Krishna. Right. You cannot avoid. Yeah, the answer is no, I would say. And what does Krishna say? Many things. But the one I'm trying to remember, I'm not. Matra spashastu kunteya sitoshna sukadukadaha agama payano nitjas tangs titikshashva bharata. So Krishna says there's the coming and going of winter and summer seasons, right? Happiness and distress. Sukha dukkha same kritva. One has to be equipoised in happiness and distress because it's part of the natural cycle of material existence. So can we avoid them? I would say no. Can we transcend them? Yes. Right? By getting a higher taste in our devotional service, we're able to act on the spiritual platform and tolerate, which is what Krishna recommends, right? The adibautik, adidaivik, adi-atmika klesha. Right? Do your friends pick on you at school sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you pick on them? Yeah, of course. It's quid pro quo. You get what you deserve. Or we get what we... Yeah. So... as Ananda Vallabha says, we can't avoid the sufferings of material existence. But as Victor says, if we surrender to Krishna, we get a higher taste, so we can easily tolerate those things. It's not, it's just it's an inconvenience, really. Anything else? Victor? Like to share some of your realizations? You had a busy weekend, right? You worked hard. Did you have any suffering?
Physically, yes.
Physically, you had some suffering, yeah. And what else?
Mentally, no. Because when you see...
Mentally was suffering too?
No.
No.
Because when you see that people are coming or trying to come to Krishna consciousness, put some, injecting some spirituality into them, and you see the happy faces,
Yes.
it gives you satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the interesting thing. We don't mind working hard to see others happy. Right? Have we got any mums here? Got one mum that I know. Are you working hard to keep your family happy? Are you happy when they're happy? Yeah. So Victor's a natural, he's a good cook. And cooks love to see people happy when they're eating their, especially their prasadam, right? And they're just smiling and very content. And so the cook's smiling and content, right? Here, have some more. Devotees don't mind. People are thinking, I got away with 3 plates of prasadam. The devotee is thinking, great, he'll be back. What is it? Seva mukhihi jivado. Devotional service begins with the tongue. Very often for many people that means prasad sevaya, which is what we should be doing now, huh? What do you think? Prasad sevaya. Okay, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. What's that? I think it would help a few people. Yeah, something like that, that's a good idea. And it could probably fit on video actually. Good one. Have you got a credit card? Yeah. Just do it.
I talked to my friend about the lights here.
Oh, yeah.
We need a light engineer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a different thing as well.
Yeah, I know that the problem is the lights. So, I see the problem.
That's right, that's the main problem.
Yeah.
I used to be able to read, yeah.
And then a future suggestion, like myself, I used to rub my eyes.
Yeah.
And what happened? I broke my legs, my natural legs. Okay. What happened when I was in India? And my legs was only 5. I did a few months rubbing my eyes, and I didn't know. And I was actually breaking my legs. And then I came into Australia, and I went to check, making the prescription. You know how much is the lens now? The prescription? 18. And high power lens.
Oh, from the glasses. So what do you got contact lenses?
No, I have special lenses, yeah. You know, my glasses from 5 to 30.
No, my glasses are okay.
No, but rubbing the eyes.
Yeah, but one of the problems is cataracts for me. Also, yeah, so. And also just because the sugar was out of control last month, pretty much. Or not so much, it was quite high. Not super duper high, but that's affecting the nerves. So my problem is complications from diabetes more than anything. Yeah, which is interesting because, you know, diabetes is insidious disease in many respects because it can affect different things, and that's, for me, that's what it's becoming prominent now. But I'm keeping it's improved. Like I could read this today. The italics, because they're all tight, that's hard for me to read. But everything else I can read, and that's because the eyes are getting better. Yeah, and I can see everything pretty much. In a room like this, I can see everything. In a long distance sight, it's very blurry though. So I just got to wait for a few weeks for it to get better. But a lamp will help. I think so. And I'm not the only one, but for the elderly amongst us, or the older, a lamp would be help.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to ask you, I have to ask control of yourself. You are just looking at the ITC. If you can get started, I spoke to Śrīmad Prabhu.
Yeah.
If you can start on a Saturday.
Let's go there. Oh, what is it?
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavansam Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathantam Tvam Sajivam Shadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur-Bhakta-Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna Hare